Awesome. So I know that, again, this is day 2 of Flutter Fire Festival. I hope you guys are having fun. Just like me, I'm enjoying this session. I hope everybody had their breakfast. You guys are awake. I'm going to steal a page from Simon and I's, one of our friends, Mark Thompson. You guys know him as Mark Texan. So I'm going to steal one page out of his playbook. So whoever is doing Flutter right now, whoever's building Flutter, give me one clap. 1, 2, 3. Whoever's doing Firebase, give me 2 claps. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, if you're doing both, give me 3 claps. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Give it up to yourselves. Great. It's just like a little dynamic just to wake people up. Great. Awesome. So again, my name is Roman Jaquez. I am a Flutter GDE. I am a lead organizer at GDG Lawrence back home. I also love to engage building developer communities, spreading the good word about technology, about what I'm passionate about, which is Flutter and Firebase, of course. In this talk, I called it Pushing Flutter to the Extent Beyond Mobile, Desktop, and Web. So this is pretty much a session, or the gadget corner that you guys saw at the booth that we have set up, made into a session plus a little more. And this is pretty much a journey. I'm gonna take you on a journey of not only personal projects, things that I've built out there, to motivate you, to see what's possible, to show you what's possible to build in Flutter now and in the future. Here some social media links so that you guys can, if you guys want to follow me. I am even putting together a series of videos on my YouTube channel on one of the projects that I was supposed to show you in the gadget corner, but because of some technical difficulties, I couldn't. But I have a YouTube channel. You guys can follow me also on Twitter. I'm usually active, just putting stuff that I build out there, and I like to share with everybody. Awesome. Great, so without further ado, let's start. Like I mentioned, the future of multi-platform is here. You don't have to wait for the future. Like some people say, I'd rather wait until it arrives, or maybe I should just not do anything and just wait until the future comes. No, there's a lot of things that you can do right now in Flutter that actually push the boundaries of the platform, and you can do amazing experiences that you can engage your users on. Flutter's true power lies in its portability, and you guys saw it in some of the demos that I had in the gadget corner, because it enables to deploy your applications from a single code base, of course, everybody knows that, to a wide variety of platforms. So everybody knows also that we have 7 different platforms that you can deploy right now, and you saw some of the demos at the gadget corner. And like I mentioned, through a series of personal projects, little projects that I've created here and there, also that I've applied at my own job. You're going to be seeing it in just a minute. Some of them are publicly available. You can go to my GitHub also. Those are open sourced. So you'll see, I'm going to take you on this journey of what's possible in Flutter, things to pay attention so that you can stay ahead of the curve and you can even implement the future now. So again, it may sound like I might be preaching to the choir because we all love Flutter here, but there may be 1 or 2 of you who could still be on the fence as far as like debating whether you want to pick Flutter as your project of choice. Well, for your next project, maybe your career choice. Let's say you want to dedicate your life to building a small little startup, like building it around Flutter. So I hope that this talk clears some of those doubts. And also kind of like inspires you to build that next project and use Flutter as your de facto UI framework. I like to put this picture in here, but if you notice, this picture actually has pretty much the same device, but in just different multiple screens. So people say, okay, so these are the multiple devices that you can deploy Flutter, but Flutter can go way beyond this. You've seen some of the demos at the gadget corner where I can show Flutter running on circular screens, rectangular screens, touch ones, small ones, rectangular, on a Raspberry Pi, on Prime OS, on multiple mediums, on multiple platforms. So this is just so that you understand that you don't constrain yourself just to a mobile device or a desktop or just the web. So you can take Flutter beyond or where any other framework, no other framework has actually gone before. There are 2 additional platforms actually aside from the regular 7. So you know that there are 7. And let me go back to this slide. This is what I call the WIM whale so I can remember. So I say Windows, iOS, macOS, web, Android, Linux, embedded. So I call it WIM whale. That way I can remember the 7, like a mnemonic. Then if you add these 2, you could call it WIM whale root because you have RISC-V and WebAssembly. So every Flutter release, they even releasing new platforms that we can deploy Flutter on. So you have RISC-V and WebAssembly. We're going to get into those in just a minute. But if you see, now we have 9 completely different platforms in which you can deploy your Flutter applications. So don't just constrain yourself to Android and iOS and the web. I was told that I can hide some of the QR codes. So this is the chance where you can actually scan. Yes, so RISC-V stands for, again, Reduced Instruction Set Computer version 5, which is actually an open standard, royalty-free chip architecture that is gaining a lot of traction in the industry right now. Why? Because it allows you, is open source, for once. Also, it allows you to develop, very modular applications using this type of chip architecture. In the embedded space, it's going to be amazing. Why? Because it's going to allow you to take Flutter to other places. You're going to see Flutter in your fridge. You're going to see Flutter in your car. Well, in your car you can now, but imagine other places where you haven't seen Flutter. We will be able to see it thanks to this type of chip architecture, embedded architecture. Because this framework allows for a lot of opportunities. There's kind of like it gives you that modular, open standard, energy efficient way to build, for that type of chip architecture. Let me show you a video. I hope that, let me see, I think this will play. Just takes a little bit. So this is, I think you've seen this in the Gadget Corner. So this is one of the experiments that I did where I said, okay, so you have to find ways, novel ways on how you can display the information. So instead of me saying, what can I do in Flutter? I just think, what do I want to do? In this case, I showed you in the Gadget Corner where I have that circular screen loaded, and I loaded a Flutter application on Prime OS, which is an Android-based distribution. I loaded it on the Raspberry Pi. I created that APK, I loaded into that module, and then I created something that I called the Smart Jacket. So I was like, oh, I want to create clothing. Is Flutter in clothing? Flutter is a car, Flutter is in a mobile desktop web, but why is it in clothing? So I created this little project, and it went crazy. People were like, looking at it, but I'm like, you see, this is what I'm talking about, how far you can take Flutter. Don't just constrain yourself to a mobile device or someone stuck to a screen sitting on a desk. Why not take it with you, bring Flutter with you? Or like I mentioned in the tweet where I posted that, I say, I love Flutter so much that I can even wear it. So this is one of those examples. And you can swing by the Gadget Corner. I do have that little screen over there so you can take a look. Let's take a look at this other example that I also tried. So we just have to wait until it loads. But yeah, meanwhile, this is another one, another thing that I hear a lot from the community that they say, yeah, but everything is already built out there. I don't have a reason to build an application. I don't know how I can come up with ideas to build applications. I build applications even for myself. Like, I want to make my life easier. I'm lazy. And then I said, I want to create an application where I can turn things on and off around the house. I don't want to be locked into a subscription service where I can, for example, like there's a bunch of home automation companies that give you like a subscription package monthly. You have to have like a hub. You have to pay a monthly subscription. You have to buy a bunch of devices. Here, I just built a Flutter application. And then I got the devices myself. These devices don't require a hub. And these are self-contained smart devices that have like a little RESTful API running, like a little web server embedded in it. And you can just send them a simple HTTP request. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. You can, like reduce the intensity of the lights and all of that. at a very affordable price, very accessible, and you don't have to like break the bank. This one is wife approved because my wife loves it now. She can turn things on and off, and she's like, oh yeah, I don't have to get off the couch. I can just tap this. And this is only working in my house, but a lot of people have asked me, well, why don't you put that? Why don't you make that into a business? I'm like, no, I like to do this so that the community see what's possible in Flutter beyond mobile, desktop, and web. Let's continue. So WebAssembly is another one of those platforms where now you can target Flutter. You can build your Flutter applications for. WebAssembly, or WASM for short, is a low-level binary format that is really gaining a lot of traction because it's going to be offering like maximized performance. It's going to augment JavaScript. A lot of other languages other than JavaScript are going to be able to build, compile into WASM, and now you can bring those experiences with you on the web. So for example, Rust, C++, Go, there's a bunch of others that you can like compile into WebAssembly, and then you can bring those experiences into the web. So imagine Flutter built as a WASM module. You're going to have like near native performance on the web. That way you can skip app stores, you can deliver those experiences directly to your users, and using a platform such as the web, as mature as the web, to distribute your own experiences. And the benefits of WebAssembly are those: reliable performance, because it gives you, again, that low-level binary format. There's a low memory footprint and a reduced amount of bytes transmitted over the wire. So that's why I like WebAssembly. Also because of the portability. Again, remember, those languages, a bunch of languages, even garbage collected ones, can build into WASM. So you can bring those with you on the web. And of course, last but not least, high flexibility, because of now you can not only write for web languages other than JavaScript. So JavaScript, like I mentioned, Flutter is not going to kill JavaScript, but it's going to interact with other languages. It's going to bring them along in the journey. Now you can do this. This is what you actually can do now, because Dart has a, Dart can transpile into a very tightly compiled JavaScript code. At the end of the day, it's JavaScript. When you say Flutter build web, by default, it's going to generate like a set of packages that you can just load on any web server, and you can host your Flutter applications as a regular web application. So right now, because of the Dart2.js compiler, you can just generate web optimized code and you can just host it anywhere. But soon, you'll be able to do this. Your own code is going to be a WASM module. So not just like a bunch of JavaScript, HTML, and other ancillary files, but you're going to be able to have a more compact module that you can bring on the web and achieve that near native performance that your users are expecting. You may be using, you are using WASM right now when you say Flutter build web -- web renderer Canvas kit. Why? Because Canvas kit is a Skia module, a WebAssembly Skia module, pretty much. So you're already using WASM when you build that way. Another QR code for you guys to scan if you guys want to, but I just want to mention that in order for you to use WASM right now, you have to switch to the master channel first, and you have to do Flutter build web with the -- WASM parameter. And this way you can start trying your Flutter code, the Flutter core, your application code, the framework, all compile into a WASM module, and then you're going to be able to achieve that. You're going to start seeing what the team is working on as far as like getting your Flutter applications to behave almost natively. And like I said, you can skip having to pay fees to Apple. Well, I mentioned that, but I meant to say stores. But anyway, let's take a look at this one. This is another one that I wanted to show you for those of you. Any gamers? Any people developing games in Flutter? I love the Flutter Flame framework. I love those things. Here, this is me just developing an application that I was loading. If you went to the gadget corner and you saw the roulette game, this is the same concept. So this is just a web application loaded on a smart TV. Like you can even run this directly on those TVs, for example, like an Amazon Fire TV, which has like a Chromium-based browser called Silk, you can load this application in there. Now imagine if the same application rendered on the phone looks like a controller, and then on the TV you play the game. So that way you have a very immersive, engaging application. You don't have to require additional hardware, and your users can immediately engage with your applications. And you can distribute this over the web with completely skipping any like all those stores. That way you can deliver those experiences directly to your users without any third party, or without any middleman. So I like this experience, but this is the same concept that I was explaining in the gadget corner with the roulette. So you press the button, you press the screen, and then you see that reacting. That's pretty much just the same Flutter application connecting, leveraging the real-time capabilities of Firebase Cloud Firestore, so it can like give you that experience. So you see, it's not what you can do with Flutter and Firebase. You just think of what you want to do, how you want to delight your users, and you think of novel ways on how you deliver those experiences. Now, this is the same application for those of you who are also like hardcore gamers and know about, for example, like the devices like the Steam Deck. So in the Steam Deck, I have this Steam Deck, and I only bought it just so I can prove this theory. Like I can distribute games without using the Steam Engine library, and I can load them as a regular web application. And if you see, you're gonna see now some of those experiences where in the Steam Deck, without going through their store, I can load Flutter applications on the embedded web browser, and you have exactly the same performance as if it was running natively on the device, because I built it as a WASM module. So if you can see there, that's just like a simple Flutter application that I created, but I also brought the same games that you saw on the TV, I brought it there. So you see, you can skip all those stores, you can deliver those experiences directly to your users, exactly where they are, and they're going to have that near native experience thanks to Flutter's portability. So again, think about now what Flutter can do for you. It's just what you want to do. Wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. Think about that. Let's go to the next one. So now we arrived at a section that I like to call Flutter Debunked. This is like a segment that I have. It's called Flutter Debunked, where I'm going to demystify some of the misconceptions that people have in the community that kind of like alter the perception of Flutter out there, that I know some of you may have heard. They're worth mentioning because they may affect how people perceive Flutter, how you perceive Flutter. Like, oh, should I pick Flutter for my big project at the company? Should I pick Flutter as my career choice? I want to dedicate my life doing Flutter. Some of these misconceptions might clear those things for you. So I hope that you pay attention and listen to this one. There's a lot at stake at this, so pay attention to this. So there's a lot of misconceptions, but I'm going to address the top 4 of those. Misconception number 1, Flutter competes head-to-head with other cross-platform frameworks like React Native, NetMaui, NativeScript, some of those. If you ask me, I say no. Flutter stands on a category of its own. Because why? We have 7 unique distinct platforms that Flutter can target, plus 2 more, so count 9. And now I'll show you, for example, one example of why do you say that, okay, Flutter is only, like for those. Can you do something like this, for example, in some of those other frameworks? This is another one of my crazy projects where I try to visualize how a fast food experience could look like in Flutter. So I bought like one of those touch-enabled surfaces that you can like install on a table. Imagine you go into a restaurant and you sit on the table, you order your food right from the table, and then you see the order actually moving from your table all the way to the kitchen. The kitchen receives the order, and then maybe someone brings the food to you. So you see, again, you create all of these experiences, bringing your user into the whole dining experience, as opposed to just creating something like that you've seen out there before. This is really unique, and you will see it. I developed it with Flutter and Firebase. Imagine the walls of the restaurant being wall-to-wall mounted screens. just in the food actually, like the order moving around. This is all doable, and I'm proving it right now. So you see, don't think of like, what can I do with Flutter, or what can Flutter do for me? Just think, what do I want to do? And I said, I want to bring the user to a more engaging dining experience. And I dabble a little bit in 3D, so I even created the physical version of that restaurant, what it would look like. So imagine wall-to-wall screens mounted all over the place, people sitting on the table, ordering their food. The order goes around the restaurant. You can see it even moving literally. You can even get of course, you can pick up your mobile orders. You can actually have kiosks for those more traditional. And you have like machines building the food for you. Think of the ChatGPT, like I said, the ChatGPT of food, fast food or something. So you see, these are the kind of things that you can do right now in Flutter. You don't have to wait for the future. You're like, oh, this is too futuristic. No, this is doable right now. So remember, wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. And actually, I brought this demo. It's just that there were some issues. Okay, so misconception number 2. Flutter is mostly for mobile apps. I hear that. Yeah, Flutter, yeah, it's for mobile apps. Didn't I just show you that it's not for mobile apps? I told you it's not just for mobile apps. It's for more than that. So not just for mobile, like I mentioned, desktop and web are in stable versions, of course. And I love the session from Cynthia and Miguel yesterday, where now you can use Flutter and Firebase applications natively on Windows. So now that opens up more possibilities for you. So that was really good. Let me try now this one, where I can show you how I loaded Flutter application on my electric vehicle. So this is, of course, this is a Flutter web application, but I built it as a WASM module, and I'm loading it on an electric vehicle. So imagine now this running on more than just the vehicles that we know that we can load Flutter, like a Toyota, I know, and some other infotainment systems on a vehicle. So you can bring those experiences to your vehicle, like I just did right there. I'm even listening to music in my car, and I'm not using the native player, I'm using the one that I built, and I'm loading my music in it. So you see, don't think of like, what can Flutter do? No, what do I want to do? And just let your imagination go wild, and you can do those things. So I'm just proving it right there. And I was also even doing coding while I was parked, of course. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There you go. And I even did like a hello world. That was pretty cool. But again, why limit ourselves to those platforms when you know that Flutter is portable enough to even be smaller devices, smaller screens? So think about novel ways in which you can show your applications, not just the traditional ways that you can show it. Some of you already are familiar with this little experiment that I did a while back, where I was reimagining how like a badge at a conference would look like if it was loaded in Flutter. So some of you know, I botched it up, like I messed up that screen. It's a flexible one, but it would have been cool like me wearing it here. But yeah, this is pretty much the same thing that I showed you over there. So this is a small flexible screen loaded with a Raspberry Pi. I loaded with Prime OS. I loaded the APK in there, and then you see that like virtual badge that you can reuse from conference to conference. So that is what I was showing in the gadget corner. So you see, like I definitely did a lot of effects to make it look really clean on that video. But if you turn it around, it looks like a Frankenstein. But at least I'm showing you that you can think of novel ways on how you can like deliver your experiences to your users. Remember, wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. So always, every time, wherever I see a screen, the first thing that pops up into my head is Flutter can be there. Definitely. Like I've even thought of like the signs on the street. I'm like, okay, we could do Flutter apps for that. Awesome. So yeah, you can swing by the gadget corner and you can continue taking a look at some of these. Misconception number 3. Flutter is great for prototyping apps. I hear that a lot. Even some of our, a lot of experts out there even say, yeah, it's great for prototyping. I totally agree, but that's another misconception of Flutter. So let me fix that little word that says prototyping. is great for future-proofing your applications. Why? Because it makes you so productive that, or some people think like, okay, let me build a Flutter application, let me put it out there, get some feedback, like an MVP, and then after that, I'll discard it, and then I'll build a native application. I've heard that a lot. A lot of people say, yeah, Flutter is great for prototyping. And then after that, when we see that there's viability in this product, we'll rewrite it in native. No, it is already built. It's already production ready, even when you're putting it out there in front of users. So that's why you're future-proofing your applications. Because I've had the case where someone says, can you build me an Android application? And I'm like, sure, I do it in Flutter. But they don't even realize. But then they come back 2 weeks later and say, oh, this is amazing. Can we have it for iOS? What if I had done it just natively on one platform? I would have had to completely rewrite another application for the other platform. So you see, you're future-proofing your applications. Why? Because once you have built for Flutter, because it's one single code base, now you can just say, whenever your client comes back and say, I want it for the web, all you have to do is Flutter build web. Oh, I want it for desktop, Flutter build, such and such, or whatever you want to do. For some developers, or even like for me as well, building a native application on a single platform, I've already built for Android, natively for Android, also for iOS natively. But for me, it's even faster to do it in Flutter, to addressing one of those platforms, as opposed to do it in the native experience. But yeah, also then if you pair it up with something like Firebase, now you can open up a lot of possibilities. And I've shown you a couple of those examples in there. Misconception number 4. Flutter is mostly for startups. Yeah, only for like small companies, mom and pop shops, flower shops. Flutter is like for those type of situations. Sure, Flutter is good for those, but it's also good for small businesses, medium, large corporations. You see, why do you think that someone like BMW, Capital One, eBay, Alibaba, all of those companies, really big players in the industry, bet their development efforts and invested in Flutter? You don't think like, regular folks like us can also do it? So they are really big companies and they're betting, again, their future on something, a framework like Flutter. So I think maybe we could also do the same compromise. The benefits on small companies, of course, is because it allows them to adopt cutting edge technologies. If they, for example, like implement Firebase, they can adopt the cloud much easier, and it's kind of like a seamless entry point into adopting the cloud. But again, a single code is what's at stake here. Like, with one single code, they can target multiple platforms, and they can deliver their applications to more customers out there with a smaller price point, with a higher return on investment. That is the benefit for like small businesses. But also big corporations can also adopt this type of framework. And I'm going to give you the best example of that. This is a prototype that I built for a local dry cleaners in my back home in Lawrence, Massachusetts. So I created this as a small mini PC, and they wanted like a point of sale. And then I said, okay, why don't we build something affordable, so you don't have to break the bank. You're a small business in the community, and they wanted to build a Flutter application so that they can also like take in clients and also take in the orders for their dry cleaners. So what I did was with a mini PC, less than $100, an Android phone less than $20, like off of Walmart. For those of you who know that chain, I'm using Firebase to actually communicate from the mini PC to the phone. The phone serves as the scanner. And then you scan let's say the receipt, that goes up to Firebase. Firebase notifies the order, it updates the UI, and it even sends a command to send like a print to this to this small printer. And then this, like altogether, probably less than $200. And imagine if they can deploy it to multiple, branches and whatnot. So we provided like a very affordable solution for them to, 1, adopt the cloud, 2, be on a cutting edge technology, adopt really, have a really cool application without breaking the bank. So again, it's good for like a small company. And now I'm going to show you. I'm going to just show you a brief example of what I'm working on at Philips. This is the company that I work for. This is a big corporation. This is a huge company, thousands of employees all across the world. Some of you know already that Philips has a presence in the lighting division. Their Philips Hue application is actually developed in Flutter, but I worked in the medical division. So now imagine Flutter working in the medical field, saving lives. So this is one Flutter application that I'm currently building that is going to allow to decrease the mortality in the neonatal space, like for babies and whatnot. So you can use devices like our proprietary ultrasound probes so that you can scan the woman's belly, and then you can do like some prediction on the gestational age of an infant. So if you see here, this is an application natively on an Android. It has pre-trained models preloaded in the device, and then we're able to do, run algorithms on the device to do some predictions on the images that get streamed into the device from an ultrasound device. So this is Flutter saving lives out there. And you see how I just used it in a very seamless way, with very intuitive UI, but also tapping into the, all the capabilities that are out there. Also, this is simplifying how the scientists iterate over creating novel solutions to, again, improve the patient's experience and the healthcare. So this is, again, just a brief overview of what I've been doing. And again, very short story. I come from the web. I was not a Flutter developer before, but when I saw Flutter, and I, again, ever since like 2018, I've been using Flutter. I pitched it to my company. I pitched it to my manager. When he learned about Flutter, he's like, stop it. This is amazing. Why aren't we using this before? Because this is going to give us such an amazing, range where how we can deploy our applications, how we can reach, a larger market share. So I'm really proud to have, introduced Flutter to the team. Now we have an amazing team already built. People are happy. They have something new on their resume, and they're building really cool stuff and making an impact out there. So let's leave you again with that quote. Wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. Can anybody guess who said this quote? Anybody? Team Sneef. And I scratched the director of product of UX for Flutter, not because he's not with us anymore here in the team, before he joined the dark side. Too soon? But no, again, I have to quote him on that because he was the one who said it. So it definitely stuck with me. And you see how I'm iterating over that same phrase over and over. Wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. Wherever pixels can be painted, Flutter will be there. That's my time. Thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate you guys coming to this session. These are some of the socials. Again, don't forget to go to the gadget corner. I have some other demos that I want to show you. That's the third QR code. You can scan it now. But yes, definitely appreciate it. I just want to take a brief pause so that we can give it up to the Invertase team, Majid, Mike, and company, all these guys working on this amazing conference. So thank you so much, guys, for putting this amazing conference.